So the first question I have is, what is the UN Global Compact?
The UN Global Compact is the United Nations initiative of the Secretary General to engage with the private sector. We've been asking companies to help progress those goals and really engaging the private sector in delivering on that 2030 agenda.
The wider community will definitely benefit from this. So what sort of companies are involved in this?
Years we've engaged over 10,000 companies have signed up to the UN Global Compact. And these are companies, big and small, from rich and poor countries, multinational corporations, many of the brands that you've heard of and people buy, but also small and medium-sized enterprises.
So how can a company like ours, which is an educational establishment, support your initiative? We're a very localized company, and that's helping the wider community, helping students get into education. You know, the students who weren't able to get into education at a younger age. So, what would you? How could we support the UN Global Compact?
Well, we don't just engage with companies. We actually have about 3,000 non-business participants as part of the UN Global Compact. So we have about just over 10,000 companies, over 3,000 NGOs, academic institutions as well. So you could join the UN Global Compact, signing up to these 10 principles. Well, the 10 principles really cover, the full gamut of what we consider at the UN the way to conduct business in a principled way. We feel that the principles provide a kind of, particularly in times of crisis, like the crisis we're seeing now with COVID-19, we're finding that the 10 principles can actually provide some useful inspiration and ideas to business leaders who are really struggling to figure out how they're going to deal with this crisis. And the 10 principles offer a roadmap, a North Star, if you like, for how to do that.
Yeah, so what we're finding with the coronavirus is that we've had to work very, very quickly and very, very effectively to get distance learning platforms operational within our own organization. So, what would you say is the effect of COVID on the economy as a whole, on the global economy?
Well, clearly, COVID-19 is going to have a huge effect on all aspects of life, not just on health and health systems, but economic systems, employment, the way businesses are run. This is a really huge crisis for the world, and clearly at the beginning of this crisis, a lot of leaders, business leaders as well, they're struggling to figure out the way to react to this crisis, the way to behave, the way to conduct their business. And so we feel that actually the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact provide a North Star, a set of guidelines to follow in order to conduct themselves in a principled way.
So what would you recommend the whole in the UK, particularly the small businesses?
Well, I would suggest follow the 10 principles. I mean, clearly, for every business owner, every chief executive officer, every leader in business, they're going to have to make some quite tough decisions as a result of the new reality in which we're all operating. Those are going to be hard decisions, but we feel that the 10 principles offer some kind of guidance, inspiration to have them consider in making those decisions. Obviously, we would never dream of dictating how anybody should run their business. That's up to them. But we do offer 10 UN principles to give them a kind of a set of tools and guidance which have been agreed by 193 member states as something to consider as they go forward and make those difficult decisions.
I remember hearing that the world will be remembered as AC and BC before coronavirus and after coronavirus. And I understand that the UN Global Compact has introduced a COVID-19 solidarity response fund. Could you just tell me what that is about?
Well, I mean, a lot of our companies, a lot of our CEOs are looking to us for guidance at this time of crisis. And so we have launched an appeal to our participants to follow the 10 principles. But also we understand that a lot of them want to contribute in some way. So we have set up a fund at the UN for individuals and companies to pay into if they wish to contribute to the international response to this extraordinary coronavirus outbreak that we're seeing. And the World Health Organization, our partners at the UN, as they continue to lead the world in dealing with this extraordinary health crisis.
If someone wanted to support the COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund, how would they go about this? So, for example, if I as an individual wanted to support this fund, what is the best way to do that?
Well, they've made it extremely easy. It's literally you can give £10 or £20, or you can give £100,000, depending on whether you're an individual or a big business. There's many ways to give. It's very clear about where the money will go and what it will be used for. But this is the official fund that the UN is putting together for anyone, and particularly companies that would like to contribute to the international effort to deal with this crisis.
So what are the sustainable development goals that you're currently implementing in the UN Global Compact?
193 members states of the United Nations in 2015 unanimously agreed a new 2030 agenda for sustainable development for the world. This was a 15-year program from 2015 to 2030 to really take the world to the next level and to address some of the key challenges that the world's facing, particularly things like climate change and inequality. Part of that 2030 agenda was the establishment of 17 sustainable development goals as a roadmap, if you like, to help governments, countries, communities, businesses, civil society organizations work together in unison to achieve certain goals. Those goals cover everything from health and education to addressing climate change, addressing the health of the ocean, for example, and also things like good governance and anti-corruption, things that are holding the world back. And also a goal, number 17, on working in partnership. It's only by working together that we can address some of the global challenges and create the world that we all want.
I definitely agree with you. United, we are much stronger. And unity as well is needed in these sort of difficult times, particularly with coronavirus. How do you decide what is a priority? Because there's just so much going on in the world right now. I mean, in terms of wars and famine, water shortages, and all sorts.
Well, it's very much up to up to all governments, all communities, people, companies, to decide the priorities for themselves. I mean, there are 17 sustainable development goals. It covers a very broad agenda for the entire planet. What we're finding is that a lot of companies and business leaders, they find that there's 3 or 4 goals that are particularly relevant to their business and the impact that they want to have on the world, and so they tend to concentrate their efforts on the 2 or 3 that are most relevant to them. Warming. A very, very urgent agenda for the entire world. In some ways, you could argue that if we don't get that goal right, none of the other 16 goals can be achieved, because the devastation of the climate crisis on our planet, on our way of life, is going to be so great that it's going to set back many of the other goals. And that's what we find. And similarly with Goal 5 on quality, and particularly gender equality, clearly that's a key priority for the entire world and the entire agenda as well. Making sure that we have equal representation, that there is equality in the workplace, in professional life, and in all aspects of life, and that women, 50% of the planet, have an equal say in how the world is run, and an equal opportunity to contribute to the solutions that the world needs. So in many ways, every goal is part of a greater whole, and that's the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development.
That sounds very, very wonderful, and we will definitely be incorporating these 17 development goals and the 10 principles into our own organization's ethos. But I would like to thank you for your time. This brings our questions to a close. And is there anything you would like to ask me at this stage?
Well, I'm interested to know how your students can contribute to the 2030 Agenda, and how you build the Sustainable Development Goals into your curricula, to give these future leaders of the world an opportunity to really get this into their heads as they build, as they start their careers.
I mean, many of our students have their own businesses, and many of them are looking to start their own businesses, and many of our students are actually working in businesses. And we will definitely be incorporating within our own business classes the ideas of the UN Global Compact in terms of the 10 principles and the 17 development goals. And I fully agree with you that it is very important that we work together in a united front with these principles, and that we take these principles into not just into this organization, but into all organizations, wherever our students would go to. And hopefully we can all grow a better world for our future.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dan. It's been a pleasure. And I hope this crisis resolves itself very, very quickly, and we can get back to our normal lives.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Speak soon. Thank you.
Bye.